Welcome to the Data Faces podcast that brings the human stories behind data, analytics, and AI to the forefront. I'm David Sweener, founder of Tiny Tech Guides, and I'm excited to have you join us for today's conversation. Our guest for today is Kamal Maheshwari. He's co-founder of DCube. Kamal is a visionary in the data and AI space with a deep commitment to helping organizations unlock the full potential of their data by building trust and ensuring its integrity. Today, we're going to explore how trusted data serves as the foundation for AI success. Kamal, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. Excited to be here. It's
Great. And
fantastic.
yeah, I saw your LinkedIn bio there, and it says, I'm an entrepreneur by nature, a salesperson by passion, and a technologist by profession. So, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to over at DCube?
Absolutely. Well, again, really appreciate and the listeners, viewers. I hope you're going to get some very exciting insights into the importance and criticality of data, especially in this age of AI. Um, so my background's, I've been fortunate to be in data space for last many years. In fact, all of my professional career, I got started at Oracle, which sort of set the path for me
Okay.
to be in data, which was, certainly the easier way. But then I stayed with it, working at companies like Sun Microsystems, Guidewire, Cloudera, big data company, and many others, before I found myself joining hands with our founding team here at DCube to spearhead this really the notion of data trust that we'll talk a lot more about, but I am very passionate about it. I hope people take away why it is so important after this call or recording.
I'm super excited about this, Kamal. I mean, data is the foundation of everything, and I think everybody's heard, garbage in, garbage out for predictive analytics for many years now. So let's just dive in. So why is trust in data so critical for organizations looking to scale their AI initiatives? It sounds simple. Sounds like, yeah, we're pro trust, but why is it truly important for organizations today?
Absolutely. I think before we jump into that, let's also talk a little bit about what data trust really is. Because, I think we understand the trust in our daily lives.
Hmm.
I trust you because of our interaction, because I know what your background is, where you came
Hmm.
from. Possibly, if we're going to get closer, I might even want to know where you live or, who you hang out with, those types of things.
Sure.
Data is no different. Data has to be put through. So, first of all, data by nature is always moving, migrating, transforming. It's
Hmm.
never really at rest. If it's at rest, it's no use
Right.
most of the time, right?
Sure.
So, as it goes through the journey, we want to make sure we know everything about it as much as possible, where it came from, how often it comes, what is the kind of the envelope of its correctness, accuracy, so on, who uses it, who touches it, what do they do with it, all of these things. And then ultimately, of course, the process of the journey is that it needs to get to the consumers of data. These could
Hmm.
be executives, it could be data scientists, business analysts, all of those people who are using it to make decisions about business mostly,
Sure.
right? So if they can be given a high level of confidence, and not just by saying trust me, it's good, but in some tangible way,
Right.
that hey, when you before you get this data, it goes through a lot of checks and balances, observing, monitoring, making sure nothing could have gone wrong, and if it does or did, we will know first before anybody else, and certainly before you get it for consumption. That is not the case today. Today, if
Nope.
you think about it, what happens? The executive or whoever is looking at the dashboard, the data, or whatever, suddenly realizes, hey, wait a minute, this dashboard doesn't quite look right. Right now,
Hmm.
it's sort of a hunch because they see it every day. They know
Right.
what kind of doesn't look right mean, but they can't necessarily pinpoint what might be wrong. And then from there, it flows backwards to the entire data team. What happened? Who's responsible? Let's look into it. And depending on who raised that issue or doubt, if it's the executive CEO, well, then everything stops. Everybody's looking at this one, right?
It gets fixed pretty quick.
Exactly. So, and even then, it could take hours, days sometimes to
Hmm.
really figure out what's going on. Now, imagine the world where if we already know at various steps in the journey of data, starting from source, origination, generation, creation, whatever, to curation, transformation, all of these steps along the way
Hmm.
before the consumer gets it. And everybody's seeing kind of the same thing. Hey, yeah, it looks like it came on time, it's accurate, it's great, it's fresh, it's
Hmm.
not drifted. The trust score or confidence is 95. Great. What is there to hide about data? It's
Right.
certainly supposed to be bits and bytes, right? I mean, there's not much you can hide. And by exposing this, it actually democratizes more of the data and its usage. So I would say, by the way, you mentioned something about garbage in, garbage out, which is clearly
Hmm.
everybody should know that. However, it has now changed to garbage in, disaster out in the AI era. Seriously, right? I mean, if you use a bad data set and put it through some kind of a model that predicts something weird or you don't know,
Hmm.
you make a decision, it will come back to bite you in a big way because there's just no tolerance. In fact, the AI models have much more of the amplification. When something goes
Hmm.
wrong, they amplify this even further. We have to get in front. I mean, I know I'm just excited and passionate, but the simple message to anybody who's listening to this: if you're considering doing anything with AI this year, have data at the forefront. Make sure data is healthy, the ecosystem is healthy, you talk to the right people. There's plenty of solutions available.
Hmm.
And that should not be an excuse to say, well, I don't know where to begin or who to talk to and stuff. Talk to us, talk to David, talk to whoever you trust. So again, comes back
Mm.
to you start with the trusted people that can then give you some trusted advice and bring you an infrastructure or a solution that can now help build trust in your data.
Kamal, that's very interesting. You're right. I think um, throughout my career, you see these dashboards, and many of our listeners and viewers, they say you see a dashboard, and there's sort of this blind faith in it. And you sort of just trust it. But I like how you emphasize that you need to have trust at every step of the data journey. And what I don't really understand is the consumer world sort of gets it. Like, what if you were to order a Netflix movie and it just wasn't the one you clicked on? It was, or it just didn't play, or what have you. You wouldn't stand for that. You'd cancel your $7.99 subscription immediately. What I don't understand is why the B2B world or your enterprise software, they we haven't gotten it right. I don't think so. What is the most common hurdles or the challenges? Why is it so hard for companies to build these trusted data systems? It's everybody, I think, understands it intuitively, but it seems very difficult. Why is that?
You're absolutely right. I think everybody gets when I talk to people, the data leaders and teams about trust, they get it, but they still are not sure how do I begin? What exactly does it mean? So
Hmm.
here's how we got here. Because I have a long history, I can tell you, um, we have been in the mode of solving these problems as they come. Obviously,
Hmm.
everybody does. So along the way, we've been focusing on solving a very specific problem. First, maybe just the data management. Oracles of the
Mhm.
world started by creating a beautiful data engine. You can store it, you can retrieve it, you can do interactions, so on, right?
Yep.
Databases are born. From there, data warehouses. Oh, well, hey, wait a minute. Some certain use cases, databases are not the right thing. I need lots and lots of data to be crunched and queries and so
Mhm.
on and so forth. Warehouses come. What we've done so far is we focused on individual silos,
Mhm.
catalog being one of them. Organize your data, know where it comes from, and so on and so forth. The governance for data, another silo, in the sense that, yeah, oh yeah, we will want to know who accesses it, journey of the data, and so on. And then also the data quality. I mean,
Mhm.
companies have been doing data quality for a number of years.
Sure.
um, the meaning and the requirements have changed. The data volumes, variety, all of that has changed. Data use cases have changed. So I don't believe any one of these silos have really kept up with what they were designed to do, and it's not their fault. When you design something 10 years ago, you're designing it for
Right.
what is needed now, right? You cannot anticipate what will be needed 10 years later. Now at least we know what is needed for this AI era, which is, hey, data is going to form the front and center, the critical part, the ingredient for AI.
Mhm.
I need to do everything I can. And, you know, larger organizations, until now, or by now, have sort of reached this messy, complex ecosystem because that's all they had. I want to solve a cataloging problem, buy a catalog vendor. I want to solve some quality problem, get the quality, something, right? But ultimately, they are all needed as sort of a part of a solution.
Mhm.
And if we look at this, the problem being more of data trust. Now, I can tell you, and I will argue and debate anybody. The holy grail for data has to be that the consumers trust that data. There is nothing else about the data that you can do that is more important. So now, if that's the case, why are we not looking at better, innovative, more modern ways to solve it? One
Mhm.
of which we realized is unifying, bringing some of these pieces that are always needed together. You need a catalog, metadata, understanding your glossary, definitions, all that, before
Sure.
you kind of get somewhere else, right? Governance, it matters to the trust in data, who touches it, how they're using it. It's simple example. In an organization, if a data set is used by two people
Mhm.
versus 200, which one do you think you will trust? The
I'm going to
one.
go with the one with the bulk of the users, 200, of course.
Exactly. So all of these things should be captured, observed, collected, and then used in a tangible, measurable way. That's what data trust, a unified data trust platform, is
Mhm.
actually doing. That's what we're building.
Okay, that sounds amazing. And back to the problems. Everybody gets it, and so I'm hearing there's probably siloed systems, and some of these systems are maybe legacy and built for environments that not the modern era today. Maybe there's siloed teams, perhaps.
Yeah.
Maybe the governance team is separate from the quality team, is separate from the warehousing team, or what have you. So I guess my question, coming from that is, how do leaders play a role in fostering, this culture of trust around data? Is it a problem of leadership? Is it a problem of systems, people, all of the above?
I think at this point it has sort of become all of the above. Obviously, as we know, leadership has a very large role to play. If they are convinced, if they realize the value and the importance of this, they can then bring their teams together and say, we need to solve this. Give me a reason why I cannot trust this data,
Mhm.
or vice versa.
Sure.
Give me a reason why I should trust this data, right? I mean,
Right.
so make it more. Again, we're talking about data. This is bits and bytes. It doesn't go any more black and white than that,
Hmm.
right? So then, how come when it comes to something like, oh, yeah, this doesn't quite look right? Well, either it looks right or it doesn't. You should know that, and uh, and also the causes of it. So I think the leadership has a lot to do with it. But then I think you touched upon another problem, which, so, even if a leader comes in and realizes, hey, yeah, this is a problem,
Hmm.
they still have to work with the silos, the legacy, the complexities that has been built over the years.
Sure.
It is not simple or easy to just say, oh, well, hey, we're just going to do something differently now. It doesn't happen.
Right.
So, but realizing, putting plans in place, getting the team together on the same goal, right path is important. And fortunately, the AI era for last few years has created more attention on data. I,
Hmm.
I see that.
Oh yeah.
And also, therefore, more solutions are coming to solve some of the problems, which
Okay.
may not have existed 5 years ago.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic, in this AI era, as you call it. Has our universe of data, for the prospects and customers you deal with, has that changed? I would say probably 5 years ago, I would talk to customers, and it was all about the structured data. And we just said, oh, we got unstructured data. And when we said that, we mostly spoke about text. I'm going to ignore audio, video, images for now. Like, it was a given that we just really couldn't use it. Has the universe of data changed for the modern business? Is it more than numbers and rows and columns?
Well, I mean, so one thing about data is not only that it always moves, migrates, so on, so on, it always accumulates. There's more and more and more. I
It's
mean,
like my basement. It's full of stuff.
so it's clearly the focus early on, 10, 15, 20 years ago was mostly on structured data, management, databases, warehouses, all of that, working on structured data. With AI, ML, training, and so on, certainly unstructured data does play a role. But
Mhm.
here's something I think you may not be surprised, but you may be. While the volume of unstructured data may be larger than the structured data, the value of structured data is still larger than the unstructured data,
Mm.
especially for a business. And here's why. A lot of the data that business collects, generates, originates are kind of these transactions, right?
Sure.
Interactions,
Yep.
customers, vendors, partners, products. These are very much well defined structures. I mean, when I say structure, it doesn't have to be that it's in a table. It could be in some other document, right? But
Mhm.
it has a structure, it has definition, it has some kind of uh, schema, metadata, whatever, right?
Mhm.
Unstructured data, images, text, files, all of that, they are primarily still used for training the models in a sort of a visual vision, machine learning vision aspect, right?
Mhm.
But most other machine learning models that are useful to business are still driven on business, structured data. So yeah, the ecosystem has changed, has grown. There's a lot more variety and volume, but I would still argue and recommend that focus first on your structured data issues. Don't simply say, oh, well, but this solution doesn't solve my unstructured data. Trust me, and again, I'm using that trust me in a bit of a lose weight, but you can reach that conclusion yourself if you realize the value of your structured data to your business is still overwhelmingly more than unstructured data.
Kamal, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. I think people forget, we're in the generative AI craze right now, I guess. And, people are like, oh, we got to have that. But you're right. I think predictive analytics or predictive AI is still the workhorse of the industry. And, it's a lot of revenue. Hey, you go to these online, a fast food restaurant, maybe you order something online. Hey, do you want a milkshake with that if it's hot? Or
Yep,
what have you? That generates a lot of money for the bottom line. I think
exactly.
companies we can't forget that. So maybe my next question is on you work for DCube, so a data trust platform. How does a data trust platform really address the gap between data integrity and trust and the needs of an AI driven business?
Yeah, no, I think touched upon a little bit that the problem, at least part of the problem, originates from having legacy silos that build complexity. They're hard to manage, maintain. People have to be trained. They're already scarce resource
Hmm.
people, right? I mean, you ask any data leader, they cannot find enough right data talent, and if they do, they are very expensive. So
Sure.
we are just, it's, I'm not creating a cause and effect that AI is causing that, but I'm happy that because data is now starting to get the attention it deserves. It always did, but now it
Hmm.
really does.
Right.
The leaders are realizing that. So we have to look at better ways to solve this. Problems are still there. Problems are probably amplified,
Right.
and the old solutions were not built for that, are not capable. You cannot put a band-aid or any such thing to say, oh yeah, now we're in the cloud. Well, it just wasn't built for the cloud. It cannot act like a cloud native solution, right?
Right.
So we are taking a completely different approach. I mean, we're still young, right? 2 years old.
Hmm.
The power product has been in the market. People are actually using it in production for last year or so. So very modern, very innovative. We are seeing where this whole wave is going,
Yep.
and we're trying to keep ahead of it by saying, hey, if data is so important, first let's solve the basic foundational problem: quality, governance, cataloging, all of this definition.
Mhm.
But then, hey, let's also use AI, augment with AI to get more automation. There are things that people hate to do. Defining glossary of data. Nobody wants to really do million rows or million fields in by hand. An perfect example that AI can actually help you, because once we tell the model or system that this data came from here, this generally means this is how it's used, this data is also combined with some other data, goes through this pipeline, all of that information can now, a generative AI can actually say, oh well, sounds like this is a unique ID that represents a customer, because I see it's being used various other places.
Sure.
How difficult is that, right? Gen AI, that's what it does.
You're
So
right.
let's use it to help the data team. Now, I also want to be very, very clear. In no way, in fact, if anybody talks about replacing data team by AI, they are completely smoking something. Seriously, this isn't about replacing anybody. We just don't have enough resources, and to keep giving them this tedious, repetitive, mundane type of work that nobody wants to do. It's only going to frustrate them.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, with come on, I mean, the modern data state today, there's, thousands of tables and columns, and, AI can make a great guess. And I'm guessing that in your solution, if a company wants to approve it or not, you can build that into there. And maybe some companies, and depending on the nature of the data and the sensitivity of it, and the risk of getting it wrong, you might say, hey, I want to automatically do this, I want to approve these things. I'm sure that's all built into there, depending on what the business requires. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely accurate. In fact, there's the concept of human in the loop, and
Mhm.
we very much follow human in the loop. What that means is let the AI do whatever it does and recommend, and another, some kind of subject matter expert, human governance person, whoever it is, can either say, yeah, this looks fairly good and right, or I'll make some changes, but not like million rows, a few here and there, and then let AI learn from that. Like, oh, well, last time I suggested this, somebody made this change, so maybe I should start learning that, right? So those
Right.
are the kinds of things that we can absolutely do, and we do. You know, we are very differentiated today by two things. One, we are unifying the key components that are needed: catalog, governance, quality. Those are
Okay.
the three key. Second, these foundations now help you take the next step of working with data products, data domains, data contracts,
Mm,
more higher level constructs.
sure.
And under all of this, underpinning and or rather innovating is the AI augmentation wherever possible. That's how we differentiate ourselves. I see, and again, I use my many years of experience here. I have never seen a solution that was created from ground up with this problem in mind. That the problem is about data trust. How do I solve it? And that's what we're doing.
I like that. And I'm a here's an interesting question. So I grew up in doing analytics and data science in the semiconductor space, and so in manufacturing, and lean was a big thing. You say you have a standard and a deviation. So in terms of trust, can companies, or how can companies quantify or benchmark the trustworthiness in data? Is there a score you get? How does that work? Is it
Yeah,
possible?
so that is the ultimate goal, is to make it more measurable, more tangible. So by taking all of these observations, if you will,
Hmm.
where it came from, how often is it accurate, not accurate, fresh, not fresh, deviates, this and that, and then also as it moves along in the data pipelines, monitoring those. Hey, these pipelines often succeed, fail, for what reason, who touches them, who, all of that, right? uh, that should create a composite score.
Okay.
Now, in a score, it can be as simple as, well, I just take all of these and average it out or whatever. Or you can assign weights and biases in these. Hey, the source where it came from is much more important to me than something else. Okay, so you assign more weight to that.
Hmm.
By doing that, you can come up with exactly where what your environment or your organization thinks a trusted data should be.
Okay.
And from there, now you start to track it. Today it's 72. Okay, I don't know what that means, but let's see
Mhm.
where it is going, because the ultimate goal is for that to climb up, right?
Right. Right.
Everybody wants it to have more confidence, better data, more trust, and all that. So yeah, let's just start looking at it: 72, 75, 78, 85, and suddenly 77. Like, whoa, what happened? Now people know, hey, it was at 85 yesterday. Why is it 77 today? They may not know what caused it, but they will know something is wrong.
Right. Right. Something changed in the system, or on the positive of that is they can understand if they're driving improvements, how much they're improving, and the actions they're taking. Are they improving that trust
Exactly.
score?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in business, it is very clear that the decisions you make on highly trusted data will be trusted in the sense you cannot blame the data for some bad decisions. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Right
What
now, this could be one of the excuses to the executives. Oh well, yeah, the data wasn't right. I couldn't make the right decision. Sure.
Yeah, well, their butts on the line for sure. I mean, what would you give? You've talked to a lot of prospects and customers all over the place. If you were to give organizations a letter grade, A be the best, F for failing, where do you think most organizations are on their sort of data trust score? And or do you see differences by maybe industry?
Well, I mean, I think the industry and the maturity of the organization, size, all of that does matter.
Mhm,
So companies that have existed for a while
mhm.
that basically had no choice but to adopt what was available then.
Sure.
And that's what caused them to be in a sort of a complex mess of siloed solution.
Mhm.
They generally will get lower grade just because they find themselves in a very strange and kind of sticky situation.
Okay, let's give him a grade. Come on, I'm not gonna keep you off the hook here. Let's give him a letter grade. Let's give him a report card here.
So I would say the large enterprises, I would give C plus.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. That's
More,
average.
yeah, they because they know how to run their business. They're
Sure.
obviously been making decisions and using data and all of that. So they have quite a bit of a insight into. So they probably even adjusted their ways to know that yeah, this data generally doesn't come quite right and all that. So I'll make some adjustments in my
Mhm.
decisions. So they
Sure.
have that process. The more newer modern data driven organizations, or data native if you will,
Okay.
they are definitely on top of it. I mean, clearly they know what is needed, what data they collect, what types of resources and ecosystem they need to put together. They are very much in that A to B band,
Oh.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, because they're at least aware. It starts with awareness. Then you create some program, project, resource allocation, so on, to say we're going to do something about it.
Hmm.
And then you execute, you do something about it. With larger enterprises, you've been part of it, I've been part of it.
Oh, sure.
It's just even coming up that there is a problem could be number of months, quarters, whatever, right? Because nobody wants to feel like this problem arose under their watch. And many of these people might have been there many, many years. So, hey,
Yeah. It's funny, Kamal. I've worked exclusively for essentially data analytics and AI companies, and they don't even have their data right. So I probably give them a C plus too on trying to, the quality of it and integrating it and all of that stuff. So I think this has been a pretty good, really interesting conversation for me. And, we're coming up near the end, but maybe one last question. So for organizations and, just professionals looking to enhance their trust in data, what practical advice, what steps, could you suggest to them?
yeah, I think keep it simple. And that means assess truthfully where you are today. Um, so, the three things that I believe, if you want to simplify trust, the three things that I feel are important: know your data, know your users, and know your use cases. Those are the three. If I were to just completely simplify it, then don't feel that you are kind of held hostage or stuck with the way you always solved it.
Mm-hmm.
The problems aren't the same. There are different problems now, much more different usage for data and demands of data that didn't solve it for 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So don't feel like what I have should be sufficient or I want to force fit it. I mean, that part of the problem is when we try to force fit, and it may last a few months, quarters, whatever, and then it'll break in a big way
Mm-hmm.
because it just wasn't designed for it. And embrace more innovative, younger solutions. So even if they're not the most mature of the companies, hey, have you been around for 5, 10 years? No, but that doesn't mean. See, the AI era or this data space has kind of changed the game a little bit. You could be a newcomer 6 months, year down, as you started, and you could
Sure.
have some fantastic ideas and a way to solve and may have created a good solution.
Right.
Don't discount it just because, well, you're only 2 years old. I don't know how we can do business with you. Well, you're missing out. Seriously, it's
Yeah.
these companies that will be much more innovative. And for a company or enterprise, it's so much in your favor to work with a smaller company, because then they will be listening to you. They are very eager to improve what you need. Okay, sure, yeah, we'll try and do this and that. So prioritization, you get
Hmm.
the top priority from them, right?
Right.
And how could you get that from the likes of, I mean, I don't want to mention any names, but let's just say the companies or solutions that have existed for the last 10, 15, 20 years? You can't.
Yeah. What made them great 10, 15 years ago is not, if they are great, that's not what's going to suffice today. Nobody cares.
Exactly.
They want to know how you can solve your problems today, right?
Exactly. Well, more importantly, I think they care. Hey, you use 200K today. How do I get to 500K? That's
Right.
really all what they're pushing. Not that, well, I don't know, have I solved your problem? Do you now have better trust in data? They don't even know what trust really is. They're like, well, I'm a catalog vendor. I cataloged and organized your data. Now what do you want me to do? Right?
Sure. Sure. Well, I think that's some sage advice. I wrote that down. I like that. You had I think you said data, users, and use cases. So I
Yeah,
think
know your data, know
yep.
your users, and know your use case.
Yeah, it's a great starting point. And Kamal, this has been a fascinating conversation. Hopefully we can have you on again in the future. But I want to thank you for being one of the first guests on the Data Faces podcast. And everybody go take a look at DCube. It's a great solution out there. And Kamal, thanks for being on the podcast.
Well,
Appreciate
thanks,
it.
David. I really appreciate the opportunity. And as hopefully you and the viewers can see and feel, I am so passionate about this topic. Please reach out, direct, indirect, however. It's not about whether you use DCube solution or not. It's about building that awareness. The data needs to be at the forefront before you embark on any kind of meaningful AI outcomes.
Truer words have never been said. Well, thank you, Kamal. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.